So we're going to take, first of all, about 15-20 minutes to do a short meditation on what we kind of went over last week, the wisdom side of the teachings. All right, so just moving into your meditation position. Taking a couple of deep breaths, just to get into the body, and exhaling any stale airs, that are not supporting the clarity of mind, the vigor of the body. I just went out. Oh, here we go. Let's begin. Taking a moment to just touch in your mind your motivation for coming here. Allow that to advance. So say the purpose of spiritual practice is this constant transformation of motivation. So where does our motivation land right now? When we just, it's kind of effortless. What's our effortless motivation? Checking that out first. Then we have to make an effortful motivation, while we're studying and practicing, listening to teachings, just being on the path. Our motivation's more at the level of being effortful. We need to put effort. So today's talk is just touching on this mind of bodhicitta. What that is this effortless mind that has all the skills, ability to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. So we just try to have this effortful wish through the actions of our body, speech, and mind. May we be of service to others on their path to enlightenment. So we start here, and then just a short meditation reflecting on what we talked about last week. So as I mentioned, this image in Angie, every part is statues reflecting back to us our kind of wisdom nature. And also what we need to do to keep developing that wisdom nature. We have two wings on our path that we need to develop. The wing of wisdom, the wing of compassion, the wing of bodhicitta. So in the wisdom side, we need, like a sword penetrates, it cuts, it slices, do something. So as I mentioned last week, what we need to cut through on the wisdom side is appearances. Right now we're being held back, kind of haunted. And it's not so much by appearances, but it's a clinging and habituation with feeling the sense that I, phenomena, others, are solid and concrete. So they appear that way, right? Our reality, when we really are honest, appears solid and concrete. Sometimes within that we do have a fluidity, but there's still an appearance of a sense of I, our body, our thoughts. our feelings, our environment, having this confidence of a solid nature. So the problem is not so much the appearance, but it's the fact that we're caught up in the surface level samsaric appearance. And we keep recreating that concreteness, their thoughts, actions, and deeds, believing in that. So first class, first second class, we talked about impermanence. The need to open and release as a step by step from this clinging, giving our mind a break, a breather from things money appearances, assault, I, me, my, not particularly their impermanent nature. This is the first step to kind of getting a, stepping back from the sense of concreteness, giving your mind a little bit more fluidity and openness. From there, we can see that things are shifting and changing all the time. They're not as solid and concrete in our body, our feelings, our thoughts. We step back, they're all shifting and changing all the time. And that's the first pathway into wisdom. It gives our mind a break from clinging to appearances. A bit more relaxed in the space of impermanence. Then we can get deeper into, it's almost like we start to see that our mind, Lama's Operation used to use this expression, our mind's like a magician. We're creating a reality of our mind that's not really there. It's all the time. The solid, concrete, me, my, I, person, we're creating that all the time. Like a magician creates an illusion. So what we really want to do is discover that that illusion we're creating is not correct. So we start with impermanence, seeing that it's more fluid, shifting and changing. Next step is to go deeper into, well, how do things exist if I'm creating an illusion? I'm wrapped up in an illusion all the time. How do things actually exist? We exist, others exist, phenomena exist. But how do they exist? That's the next step. As it's expressed in the Heart Sutra. Again, one of the very essential teachings on the Wisdom Sutras, from the Wisdom Sutras, the Prajnaparamita. Form is emptiness. What appears as solid, real, independent, especially the me and I, doesn't exist that way at all. It's empty of existing from its own side. It's lacking that inherent concrete nature. That's the first instruction from the Buddha. Form is actually emptiness. So just sit with that for a moment. We might not get right there. It lacks concrete inherent nature, form, any kind of form. But on the other side of the coin, emptiness is form. Because things are empty, from the sphere of emptiness, the wisdom of reality, things appear, function, and change. So emptiness is not nothingness. It's the nature of phenomena. And because things lack true inherent existence, because we lack true inherent existence, the me, I is not solid, concrete, independent. Because of that, we can change. So just reflect on whatever understanding and meaning that you have for a moment. Even though we can't get deep into that, we just constantly create imprints in our mind to get closer to this wisdom, chipping away at the distorted view of ourselves, not believing in the appearance of the self to the mind, challenging that all the time through teachings, through reflection, and through meditation. Create imprints, familiarity, so we eventually get to this wisdom emptiness, which is, I said last week, a very full and rich state of mind. It's not something empty and poor. It's a very rich, blissful, peaceful state of mind when we release ourselves from the kind of into this very small, limited sense of self. So how wonderful it would be. We need to create a lot of momentum. How wonderful it would be if we could all just keep moving in that direction, keep opening up our wisdom mind, and slowly awaken to this deep peace, the liberation, deep peace of connectedness, a level of connectedness and harmony with ourselves, a deep level. It's the deepest level, a harmony with ourselves, this wisdom, when we understand it, the deepest point of true nature, who we really are. So again, we start with every time we do the refuge prayer, and we're taking refuge in that inner nature, the outer Buddha, symbolizing the complete awakening of that wisdom. And we take refuge in our inner potential to achieve that. The outer Buddha, who symbolizes an undistorted view of reality, and putting our aspirations there and intentions there to awaken that undistorted view. Sangye means an undistorted view of reality, of all of others, phenomena, and of ourselves. May I and all beings awaken that, achieve that, keep moving towards that, always be inspired to awaken that. find all the means, the teachers, the skill, and the energy in myself to be able to awaken that. It's the most important thing. Because from that, there's no more suffering, no more problem, no more birth, old age, sickness, death, no more emotional ups and downs. So isn't it worthwhile to put our energy, our focus into that wisdom? So we recite twice in Tibet, once in English, refuge prayer. We'll do the slow chant in Tibet. Sangye chodam sogi shognam la janju bardu dani kyab suji dagi chen sogi sonam hidrola benji Sangye Dribar Sho Sangye Chodan Soye Chonama Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyab Suchi Dagi Chen Soye Be Sonamge Droga Benji Sangye Dribarsho. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. And we'll do the short mandala, looks like that. Or again, just offering something that's rich and precious to you, either the mandala offering, as if you know it, how to visualize, as it is here, the depiction of the universe in a pure form, purified form, or something that's very precious to you, you know. We're practicing generosity here. We're opening our mind up by giving so we can receive. So more mind is open, and the more merit we have, the more we can receive spiritual insight, knowledge, inspiration. So we need to create that kind of environment with ourselves. So our mind is always enriched with spiritual knowledge. And as I said in the first teaching, like the Kadam masters, their whole world is kind of like a teaching, you know, so much in the environment around them teaches them and helps to open up their wisdom, their compassion, their bodhicitta. I mean, ideally that's what we want, you know, we become very sensitive to the environment. So everything kind of spurs on spiritual practice, insights, awakening. So when we offer mandala, we try to create this environment within ourselves, our mind, to be receptive like that. So we do chanting prayer in Tibetan and just again offering something not just small, though, as fast as possible. So even if you brought all the food here that you brought today, you can offer that, because that's what we are offering. But also something that's maybe precious to us, you know. And multiplying it, filling the earth and sky, and it reaches the heart of the Buddha. We can imagine some space before us. And the assembly of holy beings, great masters, you know, reaches them, and they accept and receive it, and then we get some purification for them when we chant the mantra, light and nectar coming. Osaji bogi jushemeto tramri rablingje nye de gyambadi sangye shinde mete Uvarye droge namdakshina Choparsho Yedam Guru Ratnamantala Kameyadayami. And a few mantras, just purifying our mind, receiving again the blessing of the Buddha. Tayada mene mene maha munaye soha. Tayada mene mene maha munaye soha. Tayada mene mene maha munaye soha. Tayata mene mene ma mene soha. Tayata mene mene ma mene soha. Tayata mene mene ma mene soha. All right, class today. So welcome everybody. Couple of new faces, I think. So today, this series of classes has been on 3 principles of the path. What were the first 2? For those who were here. Victor was the first one. Yay! What's that? What's renunciation? Oh dear. I mean, just whatever comes in your mind. That's definitely it. Get rid of attachments. Yeah. Anything else? Renunciation? Yes, Barbara. Getting out of samsara completely. Yes. Very good, Jay. So it's involved with getting rid of attachments, but the main attachment we're getting out of is our attachment to samsara. We're attached to appearances. We're attached to an I, a me, myself, and I. Yeah. So in a nutshell, because that moves into the second one, really, what's the second one that we talked about last week? Because there is another one, but the one that we talked about last week, you can either do one way or the other. That I mentioned in the meditation. Maybe we were all doing our own meditation. It's okay. What was I mentioning? What's the second one? Christopher? Breaking fasting. No, what were we just doing then in that meditation? Oh, that's okay. Any meditation? Yes, making. Yeah, wisdom realizing emptiness. Maybe next time we'll just have 15 minutes of silent meditation. Wisdom realizing emptiness. So, what does renunciation mean? You know, it means like, yes, want to get rid of attachments on the first level, but really it means this developing this wish to definitely emerge from our attachments and from cyclic existence or from the wrong view of self, and wishing to develop the antidote to that, which is the wisdom realizing the emptiness. So we can all feel, I think, that we are kind of, well, we must be here because we feel like there's some problem, something's not right, you know. So I think we all feel that we are limited in a way. Yeah. Our wisdom is limited. Our compassion, our loving kindness is limited. You know, so that's right. It is, you know. So what we talked about the first week last week is really kind of coming together and trying to feel that we have a much deeper wisdom nature. You know, much, much deeper. That we can access, that we can awaken, that we can open. And so on some level, renunciations like that, recognizing the limitations of where we are right now, what causes the limitations, and applying the antidote, applying the medicine for that, awakening up who we can become. And for Westerners, certainly for me, we need to keep focusing on what we can really do with our mind, but focusing it in the right way. Because, there's a lot of things we do with our mind to be, good in our careers and all that. That's good. But it's more like, when we get into spiritual practice, it's still actually seeing that the expression of the I in our mind, the appearance in the I, is the one that's causing all the problems. So there's a special type of wisdom. It's not the normal intelligence, but normal intelligence is good. If we have an intelligent mind, we can apply it to the wisdom teachings. But it's more like a spiritual intelligence we need, to overcome this view self. So in the beginning, renunciation is very much about recognizing, I think, that all the harm that comes to us, everything comes with the wrong view self. That's a big one. Yeah, because it's quite easy to blame others. It's much easier. But that's painful. It ends up going downhill. You end up going down instead of up. So why don't we change that? So if we want to go up, we need to understand that blaming others, blaming anything for any harm we have, what we need to blame, Lamzo Prince used to say, is put all the blame on the view self, because that's the main troublemaker. Because we haven't just had this in this life, we've had it for many, many, many lives. Groundhog Day? Anybody seen that? Isn't it like he wakes up every morning and goes through the same scenario? Well, it's a bit like that. We're stuck in a little bit of a Groundhog Day experience. We wake up in another life, and another life, and another life, and we might not do exactly the same thing, but we do something very similar. But we've got a different body, a different me, a different sense of self, but it's still the sense of self. So this is really what defines, in a way, who a Buddhist, what Buddhism is. Many traditions have the compassion and morality teachings, and that's wonderful because we absolutely need them. We need to soften our mind. We need to soften the sense of I, and that's through compassion, through practicing morality. But we need to go deeper than that, to really uproot what's really causing the problem. Why am I up and down this way and that way, that way and that way? What's really happening? And it's not really coming from people out there, events out there, situations out there. Of course, there's also the karmic influence. But who created the karma? Who created the causes? We create the causes for whatever difficulty is happening. It's not so much to beat ourselves up. That's not where we're going with this, because we've done a lot of that already. We're very good at that in the West too. But it's really just to try and see a situation very clear, the situation of mind, the situation of life, as clear as possible. That's what we're trying to do in Buddhism. Why are things happening to me? I mean, that's kind of how we all come in the beginning. Why is this happening to me? Why is that? There's a why, curiosity, which is great. And we need to keep that curiosity all the way through the path, because it's always up to, I think, up until like the fifth level, there's 5 paths we cross in Buddhism. What's that? Accumulation, preparation. The path of seeing is when you see this wisdom directly. You have that direct experience of that, who you are, who you really are. Wow. But there's still a bit more to go. The middle path of meditation, and then the path of no more learning. But up till that state, we have to have a big curiosity about ourselves and how we can keep developing, moving forward on our path, not getting stuck, not getting blocked. Sometimes we get blocked, that's okay, but we still keep moving. Being more like the tortoise than the hare. Because many of us have been coming for a long time, practicing for some time. So we can see spiritual development takes time. It's a slow process, but if you keep doing it, we do shift and move. Because, as I said in the meditation, because of the nature of our mind, we can change. We're not stuck, blocked, limited in this concrete view self. So it's important to keep the attitude of being many people come into Buddhism or other traditions very excited. And after 2 or 3 years, you get stuck. Like a bit like the hair, oh God, this is great, this is brilliant, I'm going to get enlightened, I'm going to do this and that. And then after three years, you kind of get distracted, somehow. And so more like the tortoise, very humbly, and like the monks, these monks who are doing this peace walk. Doesn't matter what snow, wind, somebody, loses their leg, the dog gets sick. It's a very nice example of how you move along on your spiritual path. There's always going to be difficulties, but the difficulties, as we know, we don't want them, but they are a process of learning, So, so yeah, I don't know, I'm sorry to get sidetracked here, but basically, yeah, to really get an insight into like the wisdom teachings, we need that kind of tortoise-like motivation, like the monks, a perseverance, a curiosity, a humility, and an interest, and sort of a recognition. The monks, I think, were taught, these monks are doing this peace walk. They've been talking a lot about attachment because they're from the Theravada tradition. So they were taught some of their interviews about attachment and the importance of letting go of attachment, but still moving very bravely through that walk, So a bit like that, we need to approach the spiritual path, because understanding, getting us insight into the wisdom nature of our mind is not easy, but it's absolutely possible, because our mind is always changing, and it can keep changing. We just want to change it in the right direction. So anyway, today I wanted to talk about the third emptiness, so emptiness teaching. I started with emptiness before bodhicitta because I've been reading this book, His Holiness, Pure Visions and Spiritual Realization, and mentioned it 1 or 2 weeks ago. Fortunately, it's not available in the West yet, but you can look out for it. And from His Holiness's perspective, it seems like for His Holiness, it can be, once our wisdom develops and we get a really good idea of our own limitations, then the bodhicitta opens more easily. The compassion opens more easily. Because right now, I think we have compassion for sure, kindness, but it's still limited when we don't know the whole situation of ourselves and others. So from His Holiness' perspective, how he talks about generating his insights and realizations in this book, it's very much more about His Holiness is compassionate anyway. Even when he was young, he talked about compassion, being compassionate. But it's more talking about once you get this insight into reality, into your truth, who you are, then you see how people are so limited and how they're creating their own stuff all the time. And that's a much faster compassion. Our ability to feel compassion for others is more limited right now because we don't see the whole scenario of our own problem. We only see, oh, she's sick or she's got some mental problems or this, but we don't see the underlying causes and how we're continuing to create many people are continuing to create the underlying causes. So it's very difficult to get out. So our compassions, we don't see the whole story, So that's why I've talked about the wisdom side first, and even Kandro Rinpoche talks often about the wisdom side first, understanding that more deeply so our compassion can go more deep towards ourselves and towards others. Compassion, which then moves into this mind of bodhicitta. So what is bodhicitta? I'm going to ask another question. Of course, there's some of us online, maybe somebody online. I'll pick on somebody online. Well, I won't pick on you, but does anyone want to be brave enough? There's actually a sort of definition of bodhicitta, which is the third principle, the third key thing we need to practice on the path. Anyone want to put their hand up? Yeah. Oh, yes. Mark.
It seems like there's different definitions. So what you say it's the mind of enlightenment?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was had to do with charity without form or formless charity. Charity which arises without an object and without a...
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's an expression of bodhicitta. That's an expression. So both are right. You know, that's more like, yeah, you can practice. I mean, when you have full bodhicitta, both bodhicitta combined with, you know, the relative and ultimate bodhicitta, the ultimate one's combined with wisdom. So the one you're talking about is when there's no reference to a self, it's just spontaneously arising, morality or patience or compassion or generosity. So that's both are correct, you know. So they are, so, you know, another version is, and as you said, what it is the altruistic intention to attain a complete enlightenment, not half enlightenment, complete enlightenment for all sentient beings. Yes.
Like Coral Clark
Yes.
said, she thinks it's a loving blend of compassion and wisdom.
Yes. That's good too. Yeah. Yeah, very good, Jen.
That was Coral.
It is, but it is kind of more like relatively, because yeah, we're talking like, well, what's the experience of that more? And then relatively, what it means is, just on that sort of more definition level, it's the intention. Also, when we're trying to develop bodhicitta, what we're trying to bring about this mind that wants to achieve enlightenment for all sentient beings. So we always start the teachings with that as well, trying to like, may I achieve enlightenment for all sentient beings by listening to these teachings, studying these teachings, meditating, trying to practice that. Even in the refuge prayer, may I become enlightened for all sentient beings. It's always there. So so the expression of that is, of course, when, you know, as you were saying, Mark, any action we're doing is just spontaneous, you know, spontaneous morality. There's no reference to another or a self. That's called ultimate bodhicitta. But for most of us, we're still at the aspirational level yet. We might not, maybe not quite there yet. So we have to keep bringing about the aspirational level and the development of that mind, you know. So here's another, I just wanted to share this slide. What's Lama Yeshe's, in a nutshell, how Lama Yeshe also describes it. Let me just bring up this slide. Is because I brought this up, I think at the very first, these three levels, the three principles of the path, according to Lama Yeshe, in a, you know, very nice abbreviated way. Renunciation emerging, that's another way to put it, emerging from dissatisfaction. Bodhicitta, opening the heart, which again, Coral was kind of expressing that online. I mean, the more simple ways of saying it, but it expresses the essence of what we're doing. And then correct view emptiness, dissolving self-created limitations, this limited view of self that we're creating all the time. We want to dissolve, remove that completely from the mind, you know, open up into the space there, wisdom reality of who we are, who we really are. So anyway, that's, I'll just take that down now. Stop sharing. So we have the three paths, you know, the lower path, the Hinayana path, achieving self-liberation, the Mahayana path. So this is like the great opening. Lama says it's opening the heart, but this is the great opening of the heart towards all sentient beings. You know, so we can achieve, if we realize emptiness, we realize our wisdom nature. That brings you in a very deep level of peace, you know, like a peace that we've never experienced before. His Holiness calls it the Great Holiday. Lama's Operation used to always say, if you want to go on holiday, the holiday is renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. Because as long as we are me, myself, and I, we don't really get a break. We think we're getting a break when we're sleeping, but the me, myself, and I is still there doing something, you know. So when I mean, it's hard to imagine because, you know, if we do get places in our meditation where we get peaceful, we get calm, we get insights, but to realize emptiness. I mean, that's a whole other level. The mind just goes into incredible peace, bliss, and joy, you know. And I think it's because we've never experienced it. We don't realize that's a great holiday, you know. So that's why we need to develop a lot of aspiration, you know, and think about a lot about the benefits and what these experiences really are for us and for others, what that really means. So anyway, but then the greater holiday, even greater than that, is this Mahayana path, the great vehicle, where we then not just happily rest in our own peace and bliss, you know, but then we develop this motivation and this skill and ability, the skillful means, the qualities to be able to reach others. You know, that's what bodhicitta is. Removing subtle, what we call, what's bodhicitta? There's a name, you know, for when we realize emptiness, what we're trying to eliminate is self-grasping. Right, grasping at a strong sense of self that doesn't exist at all the way it appears. When we move into the, you know, the deeper practice of developing bodhicitta, what's the main problem in, you know, in the mind? It's another level of self something. So self-grasping, emptiness is the antidote to that. What's bodhicitta the antidote to? Yes, yeah, well done. Self-cherishing. What's your name? Dawn. Oh yeah, Dawn. Right. Self-cherishing. Right. So there's a level where even we're bliss, we're in our peace, you know, there's a level where it's still a bit self-sustaining, you know, in some way. There's some subtle, it's a bit like they say when we realize emptiness, it's a bit like, imagine garlic. We take garlic out of a container. And so that's like removing the self-grasping, taking the garlic out of the mind, you know, one problem. But there's still a kind of, what do you call it, a scent, smell of garlic there, you know, so it's a little bit like that. We still have these subtle imprints on the mind, and they still need to be removed. So the vessel of the mind is completely pure, completely clear, and completely qualified to kind of really benefit other sentient beings. So that's what we call there's a level of self-cherishing, self-involvement that still needs to be moved from the mind. And that's when we practice, if we come from the place of realizing emptiness, then we continue to practice what we call the 6 perfections and the tantra, you know, to remove these subtle, this sense of self-grasping, that's self-cherishing, that's more subtle. And that's why the Mahayana path is called the great path, because we need quite a high motivation to do that, you know, we need quite a strong motivation. It's a more work. We need to kind of really get self-inspired to do that, because it's not easy to reach other people. I mean, we know that we're family, you know, we're friends. You know, it's not easy to really reach and be able to influence and inspire people to open spiritually. It's very difficult. So, but if you have this kind of bodhicitta quality, it attracts people. It's like magnetic. It's like magical, almost. And it's almost like, and the other analogy they use, you know, if we just achieve self-liberation, it's a little bit like we see maybe a friend or a family member, we're both drowning in the river. Lamso Bridge used to use this expression. You know, but somehow you get to yourself to the edge of the water and get yourself out, but you just leave the mother and the friend there. That's quite a tough one, that, but that's kind of what the analogy is. When we think about how we're kind of struggling with reincarnation, with being stuck, you know. So like that, that's what the Mahayana path is, taking this great motivation. Some of us have taken bodhisattva vows, yeah. So that's what we've taken. Take some responsibility to get the mind more developed on the path, you know, so we can reach others more. What does bodhicitta look like? How special is it? How magical is it? Well, some of us have been around holy beings. So the other thing that gets you inspired about bodhicitta for me is when I see it in action. And you see these great beings, when I was around Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or you hear stories of His Holiness, or other, the other beings from other traditions who have incredible either compassion or bodhicitta, they have a skill, because it's also a skill that it's not just a compassion, it's like a seeing how to help others. They actually have a quality. It's not just a wish to help others, but it's a quality that can definitely help others in difficult situations. One example I wanted to share about His Holiness. So what does it look like? So when in Tibet, not in Tibet, sorry, when the Tibetans moved out of Tibet, His Holiness in the 50s, late 50s, then they landed in India. Of course, it was very difficult as refugees, and they wanted to be able to kind of rebuild their monasteries and continue to study and practice. So for some years, including Lama Zopa Rinpoche, all the High Lamas lived in like concentration camps, not because they were prisoners, but that's all the Indians could give them, to live there, So they studied and practiced in this concentration camp in Buxar, which is a very hot area in India. It's like jungle area, really hot, sticky. And of course, they'd come from Tibet, so they'd come from a cold climate, completely different diet and everything, So it was very difficult. So anyway, they were trying over some years to get land, so they could build their monastic institutions again, which have been rebuilt. So I think this must have been around maybe the 70s or something. I think it was the late 60s, 70s. They were in the process of trying to get land for the Indian government. So if anybody knows, I mean, even in the West now, it's not easy to get land. It's even more complicated in India, Nepal, where there's a lot of government corruption. It's very difficult. So anyway, there was some sort of piece of land in South India that were trying to get. His Holiness was trying to acquire that. So he sent one of his monks, who was like an administrator, from his manager, down to the official in South India to try and negotiate this piece of land, but he didn't have any luck at all. It just wasn't happening, I mean, if you understand India, you'll get the idea, this official just wasn't interested. So he went back up to see His Holiness, and His Holiness said, "No, you need to go back down again." He's like, "No, but it's not working. They're not listening." It's like, "No, you need to go back down again." So he said, and of course, His Holiness is in North India. This is all in South India, so it's quite a trek. Trains and buses, and there wasn't any flights happening at that time, of course. It was all trains and buses. So anyway, we went back down again, but this time, he got there, and I don't know the exact situation. I couldn't find the whole story online, but Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to tell us. So couldn't find that, but somehow this dog, this little Tibetan terrier, there's like quite wee white cute dogs, kind of, it's a bit like the Aloka dog with the monks, This dog kind of attached himself to the monk, and it was just with them, and that was it. Like this dog out there, So then he's like, okay, well, what to do? This dog wants to be released. So then he went to meet the official, and as soon as he got the appointment, the little dog ran up to the Indian guy, started playing with his feet and licking him and jumping up and loving him, and the official just got so happy that he agreed to give him the land. You know, he was just bowled over with the dog, and he just completely softened, and it was like gave him all the land and everything like that. So from the perspective of the sort of Tibetans, and he felt that was an emanation of His Holiness, because His Holiness was like, no, you need to go back down again. And he's like, well, there's not any change in situation apart from the dog, So like that, in that level, and that's how kind of bodhicitta becomes very magical when you're around someone with bodhicitta. These things that you thought couldn't happen, wouldn't happen, but with these holy beings, they can just shift and transform and move situations to benefit you, So it's very, very powerful. And it's the thing with that is as well, it wasn't, I mean, that result of getting that land meant that thousands of monks for the last 30, 40 years have been able to study and practice. And again, get the land that's basically preserving all there's like four main monasteries down there now, and there's been thousands of monks studying and practicing there. So that ability with bodhicitta to be able to shift and move through obstacles, just with the presence of emanating, they say like His Holiness emanated that dog. So it's kind of showing the power of bodhicitta, you know, how powerful it can be to benefit and influence us and all beings. You know, it's not just about being compassionate, it's actually this whole wisdom aspect as well, to be able to support. I mean, look at all our centers. We have, if any, you know, we have so many centers in this organization, like 100+ centers. For us, for most of us who've been here, we know it's through the power of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, His Holiness is their bodhicitta. You know, there's no way I could have done that. I can't inspire like hundreds of centers, you know. So that bodhicitta, how much it can inspire and move others, and because they have all sentient being, that when you've got that mind, the care, the kind of, you know, all that bodhicitta wants when it's fully developed is the enlightenment of all sentient beings, very deeply and sincerely in the heart, and it has an ability to do whatever's needed to support and help that being on the path. So it's a very, very powerful state of mind. I mean, just in a small way as well, another example is what bodhicitta can do. I mean, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's life was all about bodhicitta. It wasn't it? It was like, there wasn't a moment when it wasn't that, you know. But another example is a friend that I have. She never regarded herself as really close to Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But she was one of her teachers, you know. But, you know, sometimes you have teachers you're closer to, sometimes you have teachers you just go to a few teachings. So she felt like she was more on the out, you know, still a student, but not super close. But she said she's net of compassion is very big, you know. It spread to many, many people. And she said one time she was living in India, she was studying in Dharamsala, where His Holiness lives. And he's you know, she started getting really tired, and she's Scottish, she's quite hardy. She's hardier than me. I'm not very hardy, she's very hardy. But then she started getting really sick, you know. Her energy was low, she was tired, she would just eat and go to bed and get up and eat. And so she was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, you know. So, and then she went to the Tibetan doctor there. I think she even tried it, but nothing was really working, you know. So she heard that Lama Zopa Rinpoche was coming to Dharamsala. And we have a centre in Dharamsala. So that's MacLeod Ganges, where His Holiness lives. And we have a centre there. And that's a centre where many Westerners come and do like 10-day introduction to Buddhism courses. And so anyway, she thought, I'm going to go up there and just be in Rinpoche's energy, you know. She says, I'm going to ask for an appointment to see Rinpoche, but, you know, as I say, I'm an outsider, I probably won't get an appointment. Everybody always thought that because, you know, so many people wanted to see Rinpoche, so you had to give up all expectations of getting to see him, you know. And usually when you did that, you got an appointment. So anyway, she gave up expectations, but she wrote a letter and was asking about her health, you know, because she really was like, her energy was completely dropped and she couldn't know what was wrong. So anyway, she went up there and, you know, she was spending some time. And then one day at the centre, she bumped into Rinpoche around the stupa. She was there and all of a sudden Rinpoche just appeared, which often was the case. If Rinpoche wanted to see you, he would just appear. And you're like, oh, when you're trying to look for Rinpoche and be around him, he's not there. But as soon as you're not expecting it, he just appears, you know. So he appeared and he's like, oh, hi, how's you? What's your name? I mean, he doesn't always remember everybody's name. And then she said, oh, you know, what her name was and do. And they just had some conversation like that. I don't think she mentioned anything about the letter or writing anything. But anyway, Rinpoche says, what room are you in? And she says, oh, she's in whatever room, I don't know, whatever room number it was. And so that was that. But she still didn't expect anything. 2 o'clock, and I think it was 1 o'clock at night, she got a knock on her door. I mean, you had to be awake, you had to be ready for that, you know. But you were, believe me, blissed out no matter what time of the day it was, you know. Rinpoche wants to see you, you know. So she comes down and then she'd written a letter. So Rinpoche gives her like a huge amount of things to do. A Tara statue, a this, a that, the next thing for her health, you know. So anyway, she says, well, I've asked, so I'm going to do it all because I asked, you know. So she got all these things done. And this story came because I went to visit her and she had a really beautiful statue of White Tara, which is for long life. And she told me, oh, she had to get that done because she told her and to make the statue. And so then she told me the whole story. And I'm like, that's a great story. You tell everybody. So, and I'm sharing it. So then she then she, she got it all done, and then she left Nepal and went back to Scotland for whatever reason. She was feeling a bit better, but about 3 months later, she collapsed, completely collapsed. Had to take her to the hospital emergency. She had some sort of growths going on, in some part of her body. It's like female things, going on. And the doctor said to her, "It's a miracle you're still alive." Because somehow they managed to catch it at the right time or something like that. But she said, as soon as he said that, I got completely I knew that what ring she had given her, even though she was still going to get sick because the disease was in her body, But basically, the doctor couldn't believe that she could still be alive through what she had in her body, and they were able to catch it at the right time or something like that. So that was kind of, and so she just shared that it's like a miracle, and that's kind of what bodhicitta does, does these miraculous things for others, when you can develop that. So, and there's many incredible stories of Lama's Opera and shit like that. So it's just to give you, because you can read many texts about, how special bodhicitta is, but when you hear people's stories, and how that being, there's that quality was able to, then what we try and take for that, if we can, is how wonderful if I could do like that. If I could develop those qualities, even if it takes a few lifetimes. You can, there was many stories around she basically saving people's lives for health and danger and, like that. I even have stories like that as well. So it's an incredible, beautiful, and also skillful state of mind, that can benefit many, many, many beings. And it's not just, it's kind of beyond what we kind of have now as a more sort of limited, as I say, it's a wee bit more limited how we can see in that as a reflection, how we're kind of more limited. We can't do like that right now. But what we're trying to do in body is really get inspired when we take bodhisattva vows to really feel like, I want to be able to be like that. I want to be able to benefit like that. That's what we're doing in the bodhicitta teachings, and finding ways to inspire and move the mind in that direction. I mean, another way that bodhicitta manifested through Lama Zoparinpoche's life was through animals. Many of us have animals. I mean, you have a lot of animals, maybe, yeah. So many of us love our animals, yeah. We love our pets. But Rinpoche was very amazing at getting us not just to take care of the pets, but to actually benefit them for the future lives. But through mantras, through we have lots of things on the FKMT website where you can download all these mantras to try to get your animal. And even there's another great Lama Zonzar Khenze Rinpoche who encourages his students in this way as well. So a limited view, a sort of distorted love for an animal, it's still a good love. It's just, feeding, taking care, like that. But an unlimited view, an unlimited love, a deeper love comes from how do I help them progress into the next lives? How do I support their consciousness in the future lives? So I know some people bring their animals to the classes, that's great, influence on the mind. There's one story of Vasabandhu. You know that story, Mary? Venerable Dundruk probably knows, yeah. The story of the bird. Rinpoche would tell us a lot how we can benefit our animals from this story. So one great master, and he was a master in, I don't know, like the third, fourth Vasabandhu. Do you know the years of Vasabandhu? Maybe in the early century, 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th century. He was a great kind of master and hermit, So he spent a lot of his later life meditating in a cave, or at some point in his life he did. So, and he had this bird that used to come outside his cave. So often during the day, they come out and sit and recite texts. So there was a bird that used to sit in a tree and he would be reciting his texts. And there were specific texts he was reciting. And the bird was always there. So it would hear over and over, because it's a very common practice in the Tibetan tradition. It doesn't resonate so much with Westerners, a lot of recitation. But it's very common in the Tibetan tradition to do a lot of recitation of texts, reciting, because you remember, it creates a strong imprint in the mind. And I think when they recite and they can meditate, somehow we're not able to do that easily. But I think, at that time, of course, the mind's a lot less distraction. When your mind's not distracted, I think you can go deeper. So anyway, he used to recite particular texts. I don't remember which one they were. So anyway, that bird was reborn in the local village and became his student. Vasoband, I think it was senior and junior or something like the elder one and the junior one. And he was reborn as his student. I guess because of the clairvoyance of that Lama, you could see that, he wasn't just reborn as a student, he was like one of the top students in the particular text that the bird heard all the time. So, so we shouldn't underestimate what mantras and what, also back there, listen, we shouldn't underestimate just in these simple ways how we can help animals, Because definitely for the viewpoint of Buddhism, I mean, animals they definitely have a special energy and quality. We love them, they're dear, but there's still a limitation, we would say, in how much they can, certainly when you get to the level of realizing emptiness and bodhicitta, it's not easy, It's hard to meditate for any of us, So so like that, Rinpoche was, would have like incredible care for animals, but it was always giving the Dharma context as well. Always, if you come here where you're at pets, I don't know if you ever do like animal liberation days or anything like that. Not so much. You used to, yeah, because you've got so many holy objects here. We did it before when I was here as well. We would go to the big stupa in Airport Road, taking them around the stupa. So some of us know that, but some of us it might be new. So I would encourage you to try and think about that as well. What spiritual things can we do for the pets? And reciting mantras, walking them around holy objects, all of these really help, create imprints to lift the mind, the wisdom mind up of the animal, to give them imprints to meet the Dharma in future lives, to meet spiritual teachings. Right, so, yes, a question? Yeah, great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
Stop us being reborn as an animal before you help is sentient being.
What do we think? Everybody's nodding. Yeah. Maybe we all think our dogs are bodhisattvas. Maybe they are. But yeah, no, definitely. But again, this is because you've already developed bodhicitta. Then you can get reborn. Once you have high level realizations, but at certain levels of bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness, you can get reborn in any form to benefit others. So absolutely, your dog could be a Buddha or this or that, but at the same time, it's good for us still to give them Dharma because we don't really know. But I don't know. Maybe you do know, we didn't know. But so yeah, for sure. I mean, it's likely maybe that dog, His Holiness, that manifests, he's a bodhisattva, right? Because he knew exactly what to do with that Indian official, how to guide him, how to soften him, So I think for sure, I mean, at the level, that's why bodhicitta is so precious, because at a certain level, you can emanate bodies to benefit sentient beings that, and as a human, as a dog, as an animal, as a spirit, there's many ways you can manifest. And it's very possible that dog Aloka is a bodhisattva. I mean, look how much he softens, so much softening at other, people feel so warm. I mean, I think they would with the monks anyway, but the dog just offers a whole other dimension, a whole other level of connectedness that people bring. And even in in the past lives of the Buddha, he was born as a bodhisattva like monkey and this and that many times. He was born in a certain realm, like the animal realm, and also in that incarnation, he benefited the beings around him. So it's definitely possible. It's hard to imagine, but once you realize the emptiness and you have a level of bodhicitta, the mind completely opens up. We're able to do so much with our mind. It's hard to imagine. I mean, we already do a lot with our kindness and our compassion. So many people help animals, we support a lot of our community here. It's so beautiful, but you can do more. We always have to kind of just, as I say, keep nudging, because it's very easy to get comfortable in our practice. But we need to kind of always just slightly nudge beyond the comfort level, because that much more we nudge a little bit more into the delusions and we release them, that much more we can help and benefit. You know, as I say, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, somehow in his past life, not somehow, but in his past life, he decided, even though he was respected, he was in a village up in the Himalayas, you know, he was a respected Lama and teacher, and he decided, not saying we're all going to do that, but he decided his last 25 years of his life to step out of all of that and just go into retreat, you know, just be in retreat. Because I guess he thought, well, I want to do something really more for future lives in my next life. And he actually said to his neighbour, yogi hermit, who was Cheryl Lama, he said to him, I think it was him, he said to, just before he passed, well, I didn't do so much this life, but I've made many aspirations to benefit next life. And you can't imagine somebody in the Himalayas, you know, a Tibetan in the Himalayas coming, you can't imagine that really, what that would have been, coming from the 1930s, 40s, and then coming over here and doing so much in the West to benefit. And like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the incarnations of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, it's very inspiring to read the books of the previous Dalai Lamas, you know, what they've done through incarnation, where they've come from. It's one of my favourite books that I get really inspired by, The 14 Dalai Lamas by Glenn Mullen. Just each incarnation, how they sort of develop even more and more to benefit others, you know. So, I mean, we're not going to get all that in one life, you know. And even, as I say, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's previous life was already, you know, quite a recognised Lama teacher, you know, there. But he decided to step out and go deeper, you know, and make aspirations for the future. So we can all do it, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. We can all get there, and we need to inspire ourselves through the kind of like these life stories, you know, and reading how the masters themselves achieved realizations and just chipping away at it. The other aspect that bodhicitta is very much influenced by which many of us have here, as well as this attitude of service. Because sometimes then you go into retreat and practice and it's all about me and my retreat and my this, and that can happen too. So I wanted to also share another story. Thought since it's the last class, I'll just share some stories. Stories are inspiring, you know. There's another story, Lama Yeshe, when Lama Yeshe was with us, and they had the first set of Western monks in Copan Monastery, and Venerable Roger often tells this story. If you ever get the opportunity to hear, Venerable Roger was Lama Zopa Rinpoche's attendant for 40 years, which if you know Rinpoche's daily routine, is absolutely mind-blowing that you could ever be an attendant to Rinpoche for 40 years. I mean, most of them before that kind of got burnt out after a year or so, you know. So it's something unbelievable that Venerable Roger could do that. So anyway, because, you know, constantly travelling here, there, this, that, Rinpoche's all night, all day, like that. It's mind-blowing. So anyway, Venerable, if you ever get the opportunity, and hope Venerable Roger will do more often, to share stories of his time in Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But another one, this is from Lama Yeshe, and Venerable Roger shares this as well. In the early days, he was one of the first monks at Copan. So the first set of like 10, 12 Angie, they call it Angie monks, Western monks, and nuns. You know, they were all living at Copan. There was the Tibetans and the Nepali, you know, Sherpa, Nepali. They had their rhythm and routine. But Lama Yeshe's like, for you Westerners, that's not going to work for you. You have to have your own, you know, figure it out yourself. So they were figuring out how to be in a monastic community there at Copan. And so what, I think there was about a dozen or 15 of them. So every day they took turns cooking for each other, you know, cooking lunch. But one of the monks or nuns, they didn't want to cook lunch. So they were like, well, what do we do? So they went to Lama Yeshe and said, Lama, you know, one of the monks, he's not listening to us, or maybe it's a she, I don't know, doesn't want to cook lunch. And Lama Yeshe manifests he's starting to cry. And he's grabbed the monk's robe, you know, like that, and said, I think it must have been Venerable Roger, maybe there's a couple of them, and said, this is about service. This is all about serving others. So he just found that very powerful, you know. So just holding on to, so even at the level of bodhicitta, it's all about, I think it comes from a deep, it must come, because, you know, if Lama Yeshe cried in that situation, it must come from a deep, genuine bodhicitta wish to serve others. Very deep, you know, something very deep that's maybe beyond our, it's beyond our intellect right now. Because I think that's what bodhicitta is. It's like this complete, it's like, it's at some point it's effortless, how you can benefit others. And you saw that again with Lama Zopa, because there's no way, I mean, we have to put effort to go here and do this and do that and help others. You get tired, you know. But I think at the level of bodhicitta, it's when you develop that, it's an effortless thing, and it's also combined with wisdom. So you just know you can, and you know, and you're able. You have the ability to be able to benefit others in a certain way, you know, a particular way that's beyond where we are right now. So I think I find that quite moving. Try and remember that story sometimes, because we can get wrapped up in my practice and my this and my that. But I think it comes psychologically. Bodhicitta's like this deep, spontaneous service to others all the time. What His Holiness, I have this from this book, this really nice quote as well. His Holiness says, what is bodhicitta? What does it cause your mind to experience? Meditation on bodhicitta is extremely beneficial because it causes everything and everyone to appear as friendly. Thought that was a nice way of putting it. And what was the other one? If one familiarizes oneself based on serious reflection with the idea that the enemy harming us is the supreme object of love. That's a key point. The enemy harming us is the supreme object of love. Everything can appear as friendly. Once we've got through that, the difficult one, then so it's actually like once you can somehow psychologically, meditative wise, spiritually break down who the enemy really is or is not, and develop love for that being or those beings, then then you've conquered the enemy. You've conquered any thought of enemy in your mind. There's no more enemy. There's only an appearance of everyone being friendly. Even what we would imagine to be, we've got a few people who we could imagine to be enemies right now. I mean, we just watch the news and things appear as enemies, not mentioning any names. So we're not getting into politics, but you know, we've all got somebody, the difficult one, the hard one, the challenging one, you know, so that's the one, if we can break that one down through meditation. And His Holiness said, through serious reflection on a really deep, serious means deep, long reflection on the idea that the enemy harming us, you know, is actually the most precious one. Lama Zopa used to always say that. We used to drive around, lead a car, you know, all the other thing that Rinpoche did, you know, because as soon as Rinpoche sees what Westerners does, he applies it in a Dharma way. So the other thing is, you know, we all go around with car stickers, and some of them are really nice, you know. Some of them are not so great, but some of them are nice. So Rinpoche decided, we'll have car stickers on our car because we have a couple of cars at the house. So we had to get car stickers made, Dharma ones, and there was ones with Buddhas and no, what was it? Yeah, less creative. I can't remember. The main one I remember is if there's no anger, there's no enemy. Which is very simple, but it's very profound, yeah? It's not easy. Because as soon as somebody disturbs our peace or bumps against our me, myself, and I corner, it's hard because there's, you know, not all the time, but in a certain way, if people do it a certain way, you can see that immediately the sense of an enemy comes up, So what His Holiness is saying, because everything appears as friendly to him, even like the Chinese, all the stuff His Holiness has been through, they probably all appear as friendly, It's not, it's like the same time just before the Buddha achieved enlightenment. It's said that all the Maras appeared, to kind of try and harm his meditation, harm him moving away from enlightenment, but they all transformed into flowers because his mind was so soft, so clear, so pure. There was no enemy there, It was just that they all appeared soft to him. They all appeared, he embraced them with his love, and his deep compassion, bodhicitta. So, yeah, so I think that's the key one for bodhicitta, no anger, no enemy. But there was also one time, I don't know, one nun must have got upset about something. Because we're driving around that car and it's talking about, selfishness and how we're not selfish. There was one other, I can't remember the other, there was another slogan on there about selfishness. But I think one nun must have been in the car and got angry at somebody, and somehow I met that person later on. And he said to me, there was somebody else in that car one time and they got really angry with me, but it says on that car, no anger, no enemy. And I was like, okay then. I didn't know what to say, It's a bit of an awkward situation. But anyway, yeah, so I think, that's kind of what bodhicitta does, Could you imagine if all the time, no matter what was going on, and I think some of us already have quite some practice in that, working with the appearance of the enemy. Some of us here, I think, are quite soft, quite good in our practice with that. But still, always needs to go a bit deeper. There's always a bit more work to do because there's always somebody else who's more challenging or more difficult than the other person. So I wanted to share just to finish. Does anyone have any questions? And I wanted to share just a short meditation. Comments?
I have a question.
Yes, great. Yeah.
Can you just walk us simply through the recognition? Like, I recognize, this is one, this is one. I do not as anything but an enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is our karma.
Yeah.
And that helps something.
Yeah.
Causes some condition, but I cannot. Anger and frustration. I feel like even it's being a benefit to the world if I can eliminate that from not being, it's not my fault. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think sometimes there's not just one meditation, That's why you've used a bit of the wisdom wine with karma and thinking it softens a little bit. You said, yeah. Maybe you're talking about a person or a situation or
Situation.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of difficulties going on in the situation of the world right now. Yeah, that's just that whole package. It's a whole package, yeah. So I think you need wisdom and bodhicitta together for that. Wisdom and compassion together, So, and it's not like you can just do it one time and there's the answer. No, I mean, what did His Holiness say? After serious, long reflection on bodhicitta, then things appear as friendly. That's actually quite a high realization. It sounds simple, but that's not that's like quite evolved. And that's even what this man's saying in the book. This is showing actually the high quality His Holiness's realizations, because he's had incredible amount of enemies, His Holiness, but even they appear as friendly. And I don't think His Holiness would just say that for no sake, So I think to unpack what's going on in the world right now takes quite a bit of work, if that's what you're talking about, the general situation of the world, but even our daily situations, it's not just that. The main thing is that we have to get to the point where how I experience this depends on my mind. I have to experience, if I experience this as bad, as heavy, as difficult, that's because of the level in my mind right now, You know, it doesn't mean that we don't feel compassion for the situation, you know, but so I think for me, generally for me, when I have some stuff coming up, you know, just in any situation, I find it really difficult. So sometimes we need an immediate antidote just to deal with what's the emotion right now. But then we have to realize we need to do deeper work, you know. And of course, there's all these techniques for meditating on bodhicitta. The one I'm going to bring up is the 4 immeasurables. It's the groundwork of bodhicitta, but there's the 8. There's the 8 verses of thought transformation. You know, there's the 7-point cause and effect, you know, but they all start from trying to remember the kindness of sentient beings. That sentient beings, even these beings who are so challenging and difficult for me, have been kind to me in the past. That's one. Maybe that's difficult. But that's often where they start with that kind of basis, is remembering you know, like me, these beings are under the control of karma and delusion. It's just more extreme for them right now. There's no way I'm going to create that level of harm. But for them, they have some power or ability to do that. So, and what's going to happen to them as a result? You know, you have to think about karma. You know, what the karma these beings are creating. You know, that's only going to last for, you know, a few months or a couple of years or something like that. But what are they creating future lives on ahead? You know. So if you can think a bit, it's basically really boils down to understanding what compassion is and feeling like, just like me, they're under the control of karma and delusion. But right now, it's a lot heavier for them right now. They're just completely blocked by ignorance, by a wrong view of self. And we need to be able to soften into that, not just have it in an intellectual level. And that's what practice does. So it's only through practice, through meditation, through a prolonged period of meditating on that difficult thing, that the mind will soften. It won't just soften in a couple of, you know, I tell you something and that's it gone, you know. And even sometimes we read something, it softens our mind, but then the mind gets hard again, you know. You know, and then it all comes up again, the emotional stuff, the difficult stuff like that. So it does. I mean, spiritual change, as I said, is we need to be like the tortoise. Slow, you know, the goal's over there, and just step by step, keep applying the method and the meditation. But I think for the world right now, a lot of bodhicitta, a lot of Om Mani Padme Hum. That's what I wanted to just chant, because we are going into, for somebody, I do astrology, so we're going into a few months of even more difficulty, according to the astrologers. So we need to have a lot of bodhicitta and try not to get too clinging to what's happening. Not clinging too much, because it will change. It always changes. We're in COVID a few years ago and that changed. Yes, people will suffer. It's difficult. So when somebody's suffering, we just chant some Mani Padme Hums rather than getting depressed. What can we do instead of getting depressed or low or heavy? Do something that lightens your mind. For me, mantras help. It's not everybody's cup of tea, you know, but just spend a moment and think about compassion for all of them, because this is just a short-term thing. But long-term, whoever's creating this, that, and the next thing, they're not going to be in an easy place. You know, that's why we have to understand karma and emptiness and body. We need to have the whole package here, you know. It's not just often one thing. We need to come from a few viewpoints for the mind to soften, but let go a little bit, because it's also karmic appearance. It's not, it completely exists in the way it appears, but nonetheless, there's other beings out there who are suffering. So all we can do is prayers and compassion and bodhicitta. Help a little bit. But it's not immediate, you know, it come up again and again, and we keep having to apply the antidote. I mean, His Holiness is a great example. He's been through so much with Tibet, 50, 60 years, but he still stays joyful and clear. He's not blaming the Chinese, he's not blaming this, he's not getting heavy and depressed. He's an enlightened being, but the basis is compassion. And we have a big understanding of the picture, you know. We have to have a big understanding of the picture, and he has that. So this is basically, I think this is very nice. We'll just finish with this. Because we're not going to go through the different deeper level how you develop bodhicitta, but as a basis of bodhicitta, I find this very, I really enjoy this presentation of the four immeasurables. All sentient beings, although self and all appearances are dhammadhatu by nature, have not realized it thus. That's the whole problem. That expresses the whole problem right there. We haven't realized emptiness or true nature. We haven't realized that we don't exist the way we appear. So that already, if we think more deeply about that, that should arouse a little bit compassion. That's the idea. Because all of us are struggling with a wrong view of self. Even all those guys out there who are killing this, creating wars, creating this, creating that, they're all struggling with that. They have power for a very, very small time. And then where do they go, you know? Our worlds always have wars. This is the nature of this. Some of the bodhisattvas pray to be reborn in this realm, whereas we pray to get out of it. They pray to be reborn here because then they can develop bodhicitta because there's more suffering. You know? So that's an interesting, another viewpoint. So imagine if we were just born here and like we know there's all this war. This is the nature of the human realm. It's like this, you know. And it has periods of being lighter and periods of intensity. We're in a degenerate time, so there's more intensity, war, famine, disease, like that. So also being aware of that, this is the time we are in. So to expect that, you know, we have to expect problems. And it all comes from not realizing emptiness, not realizing our ultimate nature. So this is taking response, I shall endow them with happiness and the cause of happiness. Separate them from, so what immeasurable is that? There's these four immeasurables. What's the first one? Immeasurable. I know somebody will know this. Yes, love, immeasurable love. Love and kindness, you could say, yeah. So what it means is I want to, you know, again, to help people. The cause of happiness means inspiring people to create virtue. Because that's the cause of happiness, something virtuous, when you do good actions. And that's not easy to inspire other people to do virtuous actions. So we need to be quite evolved ourselves. So that's already hitting on bodhicitta, you know, we need that level of being to inspire others to practice virtue. I shall separate from suffering the causes of suffering. Yes, immeasurable compassion. Again, that's another layer of qualification we need. We need to have realised emptiness really to be able to do that. To see how to free others from the causes of suffering, from ignorance, karma, delusion. I shall make inseparable from happiness without suffering. What one's that one? Joy. Immeasurable joy, yeah. And I shall set in equanimity the cause of well-being free from attachment, aversion, and partiality. So, and also this is a little slide of Rinpoche on the side. He used to write on cuddly toys all the time, Dharma things. I have all sentient beings in my heart. That's bodhicitta. Do we have any? We all have somebody. We all have some. But that's kind of the realization of bodhicitta, when you have all the care, the deep care, love, and only the thought of enlightenment for others in your heart. That's bodhicitta. So that's that. This is from the Medicine Buddha Puja. You'll recognise it, Mary. Yeah, I really like that. And because it's kind of like, okay, let's take a wee bit of responsibility here to kind of move my mind further in those four immeasurables, you know. So yeah, if we get upset, sad, depressed with the news, we need to think, okay, if I watch this, I hear that, listen to that, what's my antidote? What am I going to do when the mind goes down? When I feel emotionally sad? What works for you? Listening to a Dharma teacher, chanting the Mani Padme Hum, whatever, you know, do something, because probably we might find that in the next few months, the mind's going up and down more because there's stuff going on. It's a difficult year. So we need to prepare our minds with whatever meditation practice, whatever short practice works for us. So I thought to finish just by chanting Lama Zopa Rinpoche's chant of a Mani Padme Hum. We'll do it a few times, and then we'll do some dedications. Because it's already 22, sorry, I went over a little bit. I'll just get the dedication. Forgot to open that. Okay, stop share. And I'll share this one. Share. Here we go. So just let's chant a few Mani Padme Hums for the world. For us, for our heart to open more and more in the four immeasurables. For us to continually, main thing is, from my own experiences, keep being, finding ways to keep inspiring ourselves to develop bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness, keep chipping away at our limitations, opening up the mind in these three principles. Definite emergence from limitation, opening of the heart, and as Lama Yeshe says, dissolving into emptiness, dissolving into our ultimate truth. That deep experience of peace, that holiday that Selena's talked about, holiday for the delusions. So we may all move more and more forward towards that and be continually blessed and inspired by all the great masters, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, feeling their energy always supporting and protecting us and waking up our mind, that constant stream of blessing that's always there. All the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and holy beings are always there. There's always a presence there, a thread in their inspiration touching us. We just need to keep open to that. And may all beings always be open to that. So we'll chant a few Mani Padme Hums. It's a little bit of slow chant, but just join in after a couple. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Oi Janju Senju Rinpoche Mage Banam Ge Gyurshi Ge Banyamba Me Bayi Gone Gondu Belwarshu. May the precious view of emptiness not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline but increase more and more. Incomparable, kind, and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Saviour, land of snow teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. I also want to dedicate for the swift return of Lamzo Rinpoche. You know, for all the conditions to be right for Rinpoche to have education, resources, and to become a great master for us in the organisation again, and for the success it took to Norberling and all the students here. Yeah, for all us to have long life and to always be inspired, inspire each other, and be inspired to keep up our Dharma practice. Thank you.
We also pray for Venerable Angie's long life. We are so grateful that Venerable Angie came to our center to bring us closer to the holy objects, closer to the heart, closer to the three principal aspects of the path. We are so grateful, and
Thank you.
we're looking forward to, we're hoping you come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much. It's been really nice to come back and reconnect with the centre, because it was, yeah, many new people, many good friends as well. But yeah, it's been really nice to come back. A little bit different from being there, because before I was always empty, so I was like, oh, back there, sit there, you know. But anyway, got there and it's worked, and thank you. It's been really lovely to be here. Thank you so much. I really rejoice so much in the centre. It's wonderful. And thank you, Venerable Dundrut, for all your incredible work, hard work, for putting such a great programme together here. Being wish fulfilling for Tupten Norberling. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, and thanks for joining online. Thank you, Zane, for your constant hosting. And Amanda, and yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I hope to meet some of you soon. Great. Thanks.